that's one of the reasons why the prevention work is so very much important.
All the sex workers who work at the bar, in the bar, I've been carry them to test, every month, every 3 months, depend. And never any one of them get positive. That means, they are safe. They really care themselves. That is very important. What I think is, we have to start to check the woman in the house. I think we have to check that area. And the teenager at the school.
Well, our focus so far has been on protecting their right to accessing healthcare services. That's really been our focus. I think perhaps in the future we'll be able to look at more of the issues around violence and so on, and broader kind of human rights issues. For now, our focus has been on increasing their access to sexual reproductive health rights.
We have created a user-friendly directory whereby within this directory we have the places of all the major institutions or health services providers where the basic health care services are provided, and in that too we have a contact person. This person was contacted and said, we have these sex workers coming in, do we expect them? And so when they go, they will go directly and ask for such and such a person, so they do not have to wait in lines like everybody else. And it's more easy, it's more friendly, and they sort of would appreciate the service and they would want to access it more rather than waiting a year to get these services done. Some of the persons that we refer them to speak English and they speak Spanish, but not all of them. But what we try to do, because we know that they're going for this particular service, we also have 3 persons in the directory that if they're going to any of these services and they need help, one of these persons will be available to accompany them, so that if there is a language barrier, that would not be a problem. And I speak Spanish as well. I am one of those persons, so that makes it easy.
In more recent times, we have focused on the empowerment workshops, recognizing that our sex workers have existed within a particular social context, which increases their vulnerability. We recognize from the interventions that repeat interventions are important. So we have 5 weeks of training with the population with a heavy emphasis on building their skills and linking them into social services. We have found that the young ladies who participate in these workshops, owing to the fact that there are repeat interventions, they remain negative. So you test them at the beginning of the interventions, and these ladies have remained negative. And it's mainly because they have been equipped with the skills to negotiate a safer sexual life. And we want to challenge the NGO community to get further involved. Thank you.
The country looked down on sex workers. They have been abused, they have been scorned, they have been thrown out of the houses that they rent. I would say that as a decision maker, I would want the decision maker to really take in consideration the plight of the sex workers. Instead of looking down on sex workers, I would say to try and help them to go to school, to get a job, or to own their own business. My hope and dream for the future is to see a better way for sex workers, to see people start treating sex workers like they are human beings, because they are actually human beings.
We've realized that it's necessary to shift the debate and move the emphasis from the sex workers, the women who are selling sex, and to start looking more at the clients. We feel it's very important to stress work with the client. First of all, because the client is often in control of the situation, and perhaps a younger sex worker who isn't sufficiently experienced to negotiate the use of a condom, it can perhaps prevent her from becoming infected.
Well, if we're talking specifically about sex workers who are migrants, a main recommendation for us would be to increase their access to services, which is something we've been trying to do here in Antigua. Governments could listen very well to NGOs and CBOs, community organizations who are on the ground, and link with them more to address issues of exploitation and violence against sex workers.
I've seen in the time that I've been working in this area a gradual shift, a gradual recognition that all people have rights, and that includes rights to accessing basic health care. I'm encouraged by the fact that organizations like PANCAP and some of the other regional organizations are beginning to recognize the importance of sex workers and mobile populations. There are indications that the tide is turning, and so I think that's one of the hopes I have. But ultimately, the greatest hope I have is the women themselves. And I think that the empowerment work that has been started with these women is where the key to turning this whole issue around is. These are remarkable women. These are women that have resolve that I don't have. I wish I had a quarter of. If we can somehow trigger or mobilize this, if we can achieve to mobilize this with the women, then I think that's probably my greatest hope for a change in the future.
Throughout the Caribbean, thousands of migrant sex workers share many of the same problems: isolation, language barrier, stigma, discrimination, and abuse. Many of these sex workers are the sole breadwinners for multi-generational families living under one roof. Yes, the tide is turning, and yes, some of the human rights abuses have been addressed, but there is so much more to be done. Are we keeping the promise?
Much stronger over my enemies. They don't got no love at all. Some youth said them a soldier, and still I wonder what them really fighting for. How much longer we ask you? You are gonna play